in New Hampshire.
I will say this, I will forgive you for New Hampshire voters. In the near future, I'd say the term of the next government, I think it's unrealistic to say that the income tax will be abolished. However, I will tell you this, my plan calls for cutting it to 5%. The minute I get in, the first 100 days I'm in, I'm going to charge to get this income tax down to a flat 5% and bring back a deduction for interest, contributions that people make. So I believe we can significantly curtail it. But in order to be able to be successful over the long term, I think you got to take that 80% cost for education and welfare, and those have to be fixed, at which time I do believe the income tax can go away.
As someone who has invested and started in Maine, I realize that there are folks that come to this state that love environment. They love the hardworking people. It's a tremendous place to bring up kids. However, when they look at how expensive it is to start and run businesses in the state and how complicated it is, they say, no thank you. And they go to New Hampshire or other states. The tax structure in the state and the high taxes here are part of the cost of doing business here. But we cannot do taxes until we get our spending under control. We have to be one of those states that learns that we only spend what we take. Part of it is education, part of it is welfare, that's 80% of the budget. So once we get our spending under control, yes, then absolutely, we need to reduce taxes in a meaningful way. Not the last tax bill that is approved now, where you're reducing taxes on one side, increasing them on the other, it's a shell game. We need to be dead serious about reducing taxes in the state to attract business investment and jobs, but we have to get that spending first. That will allow us to do it.
I want to give you 4 numbers and then tell you what they are. 23.3%, 130,000, 44,000, and 56. 23.3%. That's the number, the percentage of the people in the state of Maine that are on some form of assistance. You want to know why taxes are high? That's one of the big reasons. 130,000. That's the increased number of people that are on assistance in just the last decade. 44,000. That's the total increase in population in the state of Maine in that same decade. And remember, in the last 12 months, people have left the state of Maine. And 56. That's the net job creation in the last decade. And it includes 3,000 public sector jobs. We have lost over 30,000 jobs in the state of Maine. Before we can significantly lower our tax burden, we need to have work fair about welfare, stop being a sanctuary state, increase the number of jobs in the state of Maine, and take the long view our candidates have talked about. We can do this. One of the gentlemen sitting here in front of you today is going to be your next governor, and we'll get that done.
We talked about it in our speeches, that every decision in my administration will be based on can it and will it help us create jobs in Maine. Reducing taxes is the first thing we need to do to recruit and retain jobs in Maine. You know, that 56 number also includes the 2,000 jobs that I recruited in the last 2 years. So I understand a little bit about what we're talking about. High taxes, I've experienced it. You know, I get up in the morning, my job is to recruit businesses. And one of the first things they talk to me about is the high tax rate. It's corporate income tax, it's personal income tax for the leaders of the companies to come. And it's also capital gains taxes, because the reinvestment into their companies, into other companies in Maine is so high, it drives folks away. So it's not just the one tax. But certainly we've got to gear all our decisions towards driving jobs and opportunity, so that fellow sitting next to you there can stay if he wants to.
important for our next governor to reduce taxes. The best ways to reduce taxes are, number one, to decrease our spending, and number two, to increase the number of jobs we have so that we have more taxpayers. I think it's important for us to flatten out our tax system, but to answer your question, I do not believe that Maine will eliminate its income tax, but it should be reduced.
At Hudson, when we started the budget, we start out with what our wants and needs are, what our lowest incomes can afford. We put that tuition, that drives our budget. My philosophy in state government is the same. We turn to find out what is affordable for in taxes for the lowest income Maine people and build a budget from there. If you look at Ireland, they cut their income tax from 40 to 10, and the revenues surged. When you look at Bill Clinton running for the second term, he went to Dick Morris and said, how do I win? And Dick Morris says, you're running as a Republican. You slash taxes, you cap the time on welfare, and Clinton did Republican things. So my feeling is you don't wait. You start the process now, and state revenue will recover.
Tax policy over hundreds of years has been such that you tend to tax those things you want to punish. We tax alcohol, we tax cigarettes, we tax lots of things not necessarily good for us. Why on earth are we taxing labor? The highest rate in America practically, 8.5% marginal return. The other thing we tax more heavily than almost any other state is capital gains. If you want to attract capital, if you want to get those folks with the green eyeshades down in Manhattan, make a decision to invest $10, $20, $30 million in a new paper mill, what have you, up here, why do you force them to create an Excel spreadsheet that's got an 8.5% black bar at the top that says don't come to Maine? So one of the highest priorities in my administration is to drop that capital gains tax down so that we begin to attract capital back to Maine the way we were attracting it back in the 50s and the 60s.
We have time for one more question. These candidates need to.
I'd like to ask that one more question.